Okay, on to my next financial class, which is Monetary Meltdown. We go a lot more in depth than we do in the financial literacy class, which is why it's 8 weeks, an 8-week course, hour and a half long sessions. I have it ages 11 to 14, which may think is a little young to understand about monetary information, financial history, all that type of stuff. But actually, this class is based around, as you'll see here, one of the best ways to learn financial history is through activities and games. And that age group is perfect for the life experience activities and playing games. And we have multiple games a lot of times in every class set up to where we go through the activity. They get to walk through and live the life of the financial history that's taking place at the time. So going back to the beginning of before money, what did we use before money and why? That starts us right off first day, the very first week. And by the end of that class, your student will know what we used before money, what worked, what didn't, why, and most likely why it's not used anymore and how we moved on to money from there. Now this goes back in world history thousands of years when money was first established, and your student's going to know how long ago that was, where it started, how it first began, and the value of what gave money value, what didn't. And then we will move forward as the weeks progress through the world history, and then land on United States history for actually multiple reasons besides being United States based right now, and as it's been for at least the last 100 years or so. The United States dollar has been the world's reserve currency. The whole world is linked to the United States dollar as the world reserve currency. So that ends up being, as you find out through history, a big deal. And it has a lot to do with events that have happened in history that we will go through. So we'll lead it up to our founding fathers, the Constitution, and money. And what is actually said in the original Constitution of the United States about money. It's pretty interesting. Then we'll progress with questions like, why don't we use gold and silver as money anymore? There was a point that it was, and now we don't use that. None of us use, can I get 2 silver coins on pump 5? No. Why is that? Well, we're going to find that out. Your student's going to know the answer to all of this. Why was gold made illegal for U.S. citizens to own? I don't know if a lot of you even know that was the case at one point in U.S. history, less than 100 years ago. What has happened to the value of the dollar since the creation of the Federal Reserve? Very interesting. When the Federal Reserve was created, your students will know the date when it was created and what happened with our monetary system from there forward as we look back through the history. Why was the dollar taken off of the gold standard in 1971, and by who? Gold standard? What is that? What do you mean the dollar was taken off of it? I didn't even know it was on that. Well, your student's going to know the answer to that. The difference between money and fiat currency. Just like the financial literacy class, I think it's very important to understand that there is a difference between the money that was used and the fiat currency that we use today, and the value of that and why. The U.S. national debt clock. Your student's going to know what that is, how to look it up, that we all can look that up at any time, what the numbers mean on there, and how to read that, and then how that correlates to our everyday lives, the whole economy, taxes, what we pay for, what it goes to, what our taxes pay for or are supposed to pay for on this gigantic national debt that the United States has. And we have a fun way to learn that your students are really going to like. Leading up to today, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. A lot of people have probably heard about cryptocurrencies now, and that's becoming a bigger and bigger thing in the digital world that we are living in. These could be the future, possibly. I don't know. We'll see where things go from here, but we can't predict the future, and especially with the digital world, it has made it quite different compared to the past when there was no digital age or internet age. But there is something to be said by Mr. Winston Churchill here and a lot of other people like him. Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Now, what your students are going to learn as we look at monetary history, going back thousands of years, there's a repetition that happens over the years, that it seems dynasties rise and fall, and why is that? And it's interesting how the history repeats itself most of the time, or as Mark Twain says, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. It's very interesting to see how totally different cultures end up going down the same path with their monetary history, leading us up to I don't know of any history with digital currency yet. So here we are at digital currency. What can we learn from the past to what's going on now with possible digital currency, and where are we moving to? It's going to be their world, your students' world, that is going to adopt this currency one way or another, whichever way things go and will progress to. And having a better idea of what history was, and then to where we're moving towards, I think would give them an edge on knowing what's happening in our whole financial system. So I'm really excited about this class because I've learned so much from my beginnings as a real estate agent and broker and an investor to understanding financial history. And I hope through the activities and games I have set up, your students will have a well-rounded understanding and hopefully be able to point out a thing or two to you guys if you have questions. Speaking of questions, do we have any questions at this point about this class or anything to do with it? As far as a career goes, that has to do with why are you doing the career in the first place? And what those questions revolve around usually in some way leads to money. And if you say, well, you gotta have a job because you need to make money. Well, you need to earn money at this job that you're gonna get, or this career you're gonna get. Well, depending on what you do with that money, it's actually currency. What you do with that currency can move you ahead to to financial freedom in your life, or it can run you down into the gutters of debt that some people can never climb out of. So understanding financial history and understanding what currency is and what you're using, what you're working so hard for. The average person spends 90,000 hours of their life, 1/3 of their life, in a career, working. That's a lot of your life that you're going to trade away. Over 100 hours is just commuting to this career. We all reach those points in life where we go, especially if you don't like the job or you feel like you picked the wrong career, why am I doing this? Well, it comes down to, well, I need to because I have to make money. Well, I don't think it hurts to have some type of understanding about the thing that you're working so hard to get and spend all this part of your life in hours and hours doing, and especially if you don't like it. Why not understand something about what that thing is before you jump in to the career or whatever you're deciding to do with your life?